Whether you are currently a Christian Health Care Ministries member or you are just wanting to find out what the submission process is like for bills, I want to give you this quick overview here on the member portal on how you can go ahead and submit your medical bills to the ministry in order to be approved to share. This is the process in order to receive kind of the refund or the payment for the medical expenses. Typically, it really kind of depends on your medical event, but typically you would go to the doctor and receive kind of an itemized bill for your services that you received at that appointment. And then you would go ahead and take that bill, submit it here onto the member portal, and then Christian Health Care Ministries would review the bill, and then you can kind of follow along with the process to see where they're at with that medical bill in order to get it approved. And then you would get a check in the mail for the amount for that medical event if it was approved. So I just want to show you quickly, I did receive this itemized receipt from an ultrasound that I received for my pregnancy. So this is a little bit not super different than a regular like medical expense that you'd be submitting, but this is a maternity related expense. So I'll kind of show you the process and where it's slightly different. But if you have never submitted a medical bill to Christian Health Care Ministries, or you're kind of curious on what exactly they're looking for on their medical bills or on the bills that you receive when you submit them, there is a quick list that I will share with you, like the information that needs to be here on the bill in order for Christian Health Care Ministries to review it and then hopefully approve it for you. Okay, so on Christian Health Care Ministries website, you actually can find this page here that is a step-by-step guide for submitting your bills. They do update this page regularly if anything changes or if they need to update to their process. So definitely go ahead and check this out. I wanted to show you from an actual member's side what it looks like to submit your bills, but they do have, kind of a little tutorial and video here, but make sure to reference this page if you do have any questions and contact their support line if you have further questions on submitting your own bills. But here are the few pieces of information that you need to make sure are absolutely on an itemized bill. An itemized bill is definitely different than just say like a receipt that you receive from a doctor's office saying that you paid for services. So this is actually like a receipt that I received that they printed in the office for me that just basically says they charged my credit card and the amount. And so this doesn't tell Christian Health Care Ministries what I paid for. So, it literally could be anything that I paid for. And so that's why it's important to send in an itemized bill for the medical expenses. So here on Christian Health Care Ministries website, they specifically say that an itemized bill contains the first thing is your name. So you have to make sure that your full name is on the receipt, the date that you received that medical service, place that you received that service. So like the address and the name of the doctor's office or maybe hospital or something that you went to. Number 4, this is where it's super, super important. They need the CPT codes, which basically is like these special codes that are kept somewhere that very specifically say what the procedure was. So they're procedural CPT codes. Here on my itemized bill, there's usually like a CPT or just like maybe it'll say code. Like mine specifically here says code. And so mine there's like 2 different things that I was charged for, and they each have different codes because they were different services. So in the medical world, they have all these CPT codes, and you can kind of go and look it up to see like what procedure was actually done based on the code. Here, they also have a short description of what the CPT code is. So there's a code and then a description as well as the price. And then the last thing here obviously is the itemized list of charges. As a self-pay patient, which if you are a member of Christian Health Care Ministries, you would be a self-pay patient or considered one because you don't have traditional health insurance, there is often some kind of discount that you would receive for not having insurance. And so if you received that discount here, they actually had, interestingly enough, they had a code for the discount that I received, and it says that I received a $70 discount for my procedure. And so CHM wants to know if you received a discount. For example, if you receive bills from like Quest Diagnostics is a really great example, because oftentimes if you get blood drawn, Quest Diagnostics will just send you a bill in the mail for that blood draw, and sometimes it'll be hundreds of dollars for this one lab that you needed to get. They have a phone number on the bill before you pay it, and you must call that number before you pay it and tell them, hey, I'm a self-pay patient. Do you offer any self-pay discounts? 100% of the time that I've done this in the last like 2 to 3 years that I've been a CHM member, they have offered anywhere between as small as like a 5% discount to almost like a 50% discount. I'd have to go and look through all the rest of my bills. And so they offer really great discounts. So make sure you do that before you go online and say pay the bill. And then oftentimes you will need to pay that bill from the phone. So that's just a random bit of information. But just remember that when you submit your bills, that you need these 5 pieces of information on the bill in order for CHM to process it to be approved for sharing amongst the ministry, which basically means that they're going to send you a check in the mail for that amount that you paid. Now, in certain situations, like for example, this is for a pregnancy that I have right now, and this was an ultrasound that like the office, like the birth center that we have doesn't do their ultrasounds in office. So I have to go to another place to do those. And so typically with pregnancy related, like maternity related expenses through CHM, you would do what's called a global fee. And so they would give you kind of a quote for how much the entire process is going to cost. And that's like all of your appointments and all of the different testing and different things like that, as well as the actual birth. And so they send you, or they give you a receipt, or they give you a fee amount for how much it's going to cost in total. And then you submit that to Christian Health Care Ministries prior to actually paying all of that. And then CHM sends you the amount for that medical event. So this could also be the case for other larger surgeries that you might have done, where you can have an estimate and then send that to CHM. Like I could have potentially done that for my knee surgery that I had a few years ago, but we ended up paying for it there at the hospital and then receiving the amount from CHM afterwards, just because it was going to be a little bit quicker and they were able to get me in sooner if I was able to just pay then instead of waiting for Christian Health Care Ministries, because it can take somewhere between, here on their website again, they have how long does it take for sharing to take place, and they say usually between 70 to 85 days. So if you, just depends on your medical event on how that all works out. Okay, so here we go. This is the member portal where you go to submit actual medical bills. You could also get lots of different information here. But when you log into your member portal, this is what it looks like. Then when you're going to actually submit a medical bill, you need to make sure that this bill is scanned as a PDF into your computer. So make sure you have that. And then you can go here and say to the sharing tab and then say submit medical bills. Once you go here, if the medical bill is for yourself, obviously select yourself here. And then if it's not for yourself, make sure that it is selected on the family member that this medical bill is for, whether it's your spouse or a kiddo in your household. Click the drop down and you can find them. Then you click next. And then you just have to verify that, like you understand that this is a private connection here and that your information is not going to be shared anywhere. Okay, on this page, you are going to either choose to submit the bills digitally or you're going to upload printed PDFs. Now, I do have an uploaded PDF that I have of this bill here, but I'm going to go through this submit bills digitally process. It's much easier and smoother. I really like it. I can show you what this one looks like as well, but for this example here, I'm going to go through the submit bills digitally. Now for me, in this case, this is an existing incident. If this is brand new to you, you need to go through new incident. It will take you through the process of asking all of the questions for the packet that you need to fill out for submitting a medical expense in the first place. So they kind of have you explain the incident and what happened in order to qualify it to be shared amongst the ministry. So for example, they want to make sure that it meets all of the qualifications to be shared. A good example of what might disqualify you is if you were participating in any extreme sports that CHM does not kind of cover within their ministry. So like skydiving is one of them. If you had some, ankle injury from landing on the ground, they actually would not cover that expense because it's part of their guidelines that they don't share expenses related to certain sports. So check that out. Make sure that you know. It's always worth, I think, submitting things just because you never know what might happen on the other end. But in my case, I am submitting a bill for an existing incident. Now, here are the 4 kind of incidents that you might have. A standard incident. So this is just kind of like a medical thing. So for example, when I had my knee surgery, that was a standard incident. And so at that point, when it began, it was just like knee injury from twisting my knee somehow. There's maternity, which is what I'm going to be selecting today. There's obviously an accident. So if you got into an accident, it says select me if there may be another person or organization liable for your medical bills. So CHM still wants to know and be a part of this, but if you were in, they have a car here. So if you were in a car accident where it was somebody else's fault, you can share those medical related expenses here. And then this is if you have a pre-existing condition. So you can still submit things through their portal if you have a pre-existing condition. If you're not familiar with their pre-existing condition policy, go ahead and check out their guidelines to see if your condition, you can have those medical expenses shared up to a certain amount. So you can select here or check out their guidelines. So for me today, it is a maternity expense. Okay, so as I had mentioned, there is a whole packet of information that you do need to fill out when you begin any medical expense. So here on this page, it actually will tell you each little piece of that packet. And this here is just mostly because if I needed to refill out any of the forms for this expense, so like the letter of explanation, a HIPAA form, a sharing request form, which is just basically in general saying like, hey, I would love for this bill to be shared. This is the medical bill worksheet that you can fill out. This is the maternity verification form. So obviously in this case, I needed to have some proof of when I had gotten pregnant in the first place. The prayer page form is basically if there is any like medical bills that exceed their limit for sharing, so you can submit it to the prayer page, which is a way to hopefully get any extra medical expenses covered or shared amongst the ministry. Or if you have a pre-existing condition, it could potentially get shared on the prayer page. This is accident verification form. So if you were in an accident, that is the thing that you could fill out here. And they actually have 2 buttons for prayer request. Oh, this is just prayer request. Prayer page is different from a prayer request. So this is just saying, hey, will you pray for me? Which is super cool. So for me, in this situation, we're just submitting an additional medical bill. All right, then you fill out when the service took place. Then you put in the information for the provider as well as all of the charges that you receive. So before discounts, as well as after, these are the actual discounts that you received. Is there any deadline to receive a discount? So for example, like when I submitted bills for like labs that I received, I said yes, just because it was like, oh, if you do it here on the phone with us, then you actually receive the discount, versus if you pay it online, you don't receive the discount. So things like that. Or if you need to turn it in, like if you need to make a payment in the next 30 days in order to receive the discount, then you need to put that information as well. Okay, after you do that, then you want to actually find that file of the bill and put it here into your portal so that it can be submitted. Okay, once you have that in here, you want to check if this is a response to a request from CHM for an itemized bill. So if they reached out to you and said, hey, you submitted the wrong thing, or we didn't actually receive the bill, then you want to select this box. However, in my case, this is not something that they reached out to me. This was just a bill that I had that I need to now submit. Okay, when you get to this place, there are two ways that you can submit medical bills. If you're curious what it looks like to go through this upload printed PDFs, again, this way is if you actually printed everything out and then wrote in all of the information. So you would go ahead and go this direction. And so this is like the whole Christian Health Care Ministries packet that you'd be filling out. And you did this all if you printed it here on the printer and then wanted to submit them all. So you would send in your sharing request form, the medical information release form, maternity verification if it's a maternity thing, the actual itemized bill that you're sending in, letter of explanation, medical bill worksheet, prayer page form. So you can basically print out all of these forms. And so here they are. You can actually go and click and see all of these forms. So if you want to do it that way, you can go ahead and do that if you are like a hand to paper kind of person. Otherwise, doing it the way that I did it, it allows you to type in all the information. But if you have any questions about Christian Health Care Ministries in general, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you have not already, be sure to check out both my review video on Christian Health Care Ministries as well as the current year update video. So at the time of this recording, it's 2024. And so you can go ahead and watch the recent updates for Christian Health Care Ministries that they had for this year. Again, I love answering your questions, so feel free to ask them. If you're considering switching over to Christian Health Care Ministries and you're not already a member, I'd love to invite you to use my referral code. It does give my family a little bit of a kickback on our Christian Health Care Ministries expenses, and we really super appreciate all of your support in what we are doing here. So thanks so much. I'll see you next time.